Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 8th Community Development Committee meeting of the Board of Commissioners of Rutland Township. We'll start with a moment of silent meditation. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let the record show that with us this evening, Commissioners Peruzzi, Spearing, and Fatridge, Solicitor Alex, and Township Engineer.
We're very informal.
Jim.
Here we go.
No, it's not. Township Manager, Matt Canlin, and our Public Works Director, Dave Elsier. Sorry, Alex. All right. Do you have any announcements? Okay. And no presentations. So moving along in our agenda, approval of minutes from April 10th.
Problems.
I might be wrong, but I wasn't here, was I?
You missed another meeting?
Yeah, right. No, I think. I wasn't here. Yeah, okay, so it says that I was. Oh, wait, no, it doesn't. Sorry. It's okay. Today's got off to a great start, isn't it?
It's all right. So no changes?
No changes, never mind.
We're full.
Sorry.
Okay, very good. You'd like to advertise and set a date for public hearing for conditional use application by Federal Realty. And do you have anything to say about this, Jim, or just
here to answer questions if you have any, or what you'd like to see at the conditional use hearing, for which I will not be here. My partner, Andy Freeman, who's in the back right there, he's going to handle that hearing for me. I will be away.
so this
I've told him you're all really, really nice, and will say yes to anything else.
That was last month. You should have been here then.
Yeah, that's when I wasn't here.
So I'll let you lead.
Yeah. We have had many of these hearings. We've had many discussions on conditional uses and variances and all sort of stuff. I am hoping that this is the last one. And the reason being, and we've talked about this a lot, this has been the most piecemeal development project I've ever seen. And I would love to see this as a comprehensive project, so this board understands when we vote on relief, what that means for the entirety of the project. Because thus far we've been granting relief or, and honestly, in more times than not, granting relief on things that we don't fully have a big picture on for the project. So I would appreciate if you and your team can relay that to Federal Realty and bring with you the most comprehensive vision of this as you possibly can, so we can see what that means for the future of the project.
Okay.
It'll make our lives much more clear in how we vote.
You recall the last time I was in front of you, I think we passed, or you passed, the 10th version of that ordinance. So it's been in front of the CDC, I think 4 times, been in front of the commissioners 3 or 4 times.
Yep.
So I think we've pretty much got it, but we'll, if you like, we'll show you not only the conditional use portion of the site, but the whole site. And then you'll be able to see exactly what it's going to look like when it's, you know, all finished.
So
we still have to go through land development. Of course.
Understood. But so I guess with some more clarity, there are still concepts like building D and building H that we've literally not seen anything on. And so there's going to be discussion on your phase 2 or 3 or whatever this is on the project, knowing that there's going to be a phase 4 and 4.5 or 5 coming in those 2 other buildings. And so I have a very hard time discussing, this is one large parcel with multiple phases on it, and I have a hard time discussing relief on a portion of a site in not knowing what else is going to be happening on that site.
I think Mr. Brennan, who's been here with me several times, has mentioned that the only thing he sees in addition happening on the site is maybe, 10 years down the road when it needs to be when the Panera Bread portion of the site needs to be modernized. And the board was very concerned, rightfully, that we would not build another, high-rise thing on that end of the site. So you have our conditional use application now, and the first thing it says is there will never be another one of these buildings anywhere else on the site. And I promised I would do that, and I did it. And I think Sean supported that, so I put it right in the application. So that's condition number 1 on our conditional use application, that it can't happen anywhere else on this site.
Okay, one of the problems is, I'll get really detailed. We have not seen an engineer plan of the whole project. We have not seen a traffic plan as an engineered for that, even for review of the whole shopping center. So everything we see is a concept in a picture. We're not comfortable right now without seeing an engineered plan. This is the last time we get to see this for any offsite, things that we might have a problem with. And the reason why is we don't know how the traffic counts. We don't know if that light would have to be changed, if there'd have to be a light here. Until we see this, I don't think this board will have a hearing. I don't know if they would vote on it until we actually know numbers. We don't know numbers. We see pictures, that's it. And every time we've done something, and we're happy, doing good. And we've been very lenient, but this is our last conditional use, and we don't even have from the first one. We don't have all the engineering because it's just been so piecemeal. So we're looking for a traffic study, an engineered plan. And I'm sure it's done, almost all of this, because they would have invested this long without doing that. But for some reason, it never gets to us. When we ask for things like this. And it's hard for us to say yes for the conditional use hearing when we don't even know how much traffic it's going to bring or anything else, because we have no engineering on it. That's something I think you should take back to them for this hearing.
I spoke to Chad Dixon and I spoke to Jim today about that, and we'll take care of that starting first thing tomorrow morning. But just in all fairness, it's not a requirement of your ordinance, but we did say we would do it. So we'll do it. But it doesn't say anywhere in this section that we have to do either of those things. But we will do both of them.
And I would expect that because we have the option of saying no too. So that's...
I'm very aware of that.
And I'm just being very blunt between us because we've always been that way.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of and if you say they'll have it, we'll have it, But it was a little frustration with, I think even from Paul's office to us, to commissioners and stuff, that we have never seen that part of it, the whole thing with the numbers of engineering and all those things.
Okay, setbacks and things like that.
So, okay, I just wanted to...
Well, Jim told me what kind of plan he wants, and I think he even sent me one that I did before for you. So we'll copy that and on this property. And
I think there was also some renderings of visual perspectives. So I think this is something that I've heard a couple of commissioners mention. So we don't really have any sort of understanding of what we're looking as if you're from Memorial Park entrance, or even the Burger King, if you're looking across, looking at the visuals. Now, I know there's been some discussions about making improvements to the loading area, and that's great, and I think that's heading in the right direction. But that corner
That intersection is probably the most important intersection in all of downtown Willow Grove. And we haven't seen any renderings of what your proposed development's gonna look like from that perspective.
Okay,
And then I think also the one from,
This is below then, Matt, the out parcel?
if you're sitting in the Burger King parking lot, for instance, you're looking across the street, looking across Easton. I think also the perspective, I think you showed kind of a sketch, I don't know how accurate it was, coming down Park Avenue, turning onto Park Avenue from Easton and seeing that perspective.
There is.
Because the height of that building, those buildings, 6 stories. This building is 2.5 stories, maybe a little higher if you count the gable roof. So those are important perspectives for the board to be able to see, and I'm not so sure that's been presented either. So I think that's important information for them to have in front of them to consider your request.
Okay. Does the board have any feelings about how it would like to see the parking garage treated? Because most of the view from where Matt's talking about is the parking garage.
And that's all the more reason why it's important for them to see that.
Right, well, I think we did show plans of like 6 different alternatives.
You showed it from Easton. You showed it going further down Easton.
Well, but it would be the same treatment. I mean, it would look kind of weird to do more than one.
So it's the perspective from sitting like in that middle of that intersection about how it's gonna look going this way and how it's gonna look that way.
Okay.
Yeah, one of those options is sort of head on, right? Like when we saw the
That's all we saw.
mural treatment to the garage, right? That was behind the old bank building.
Right.
Sort of a head-on view. What Matt's requesting is if I'm coming up the corridor, what is the face
Going up the hill.
what does the retail face look like? How do I get a perspective of the glimpse of that parking garage beyond? Because the way that road curves and I'm coming up there, I'm gonna see more of the parking garage most likely, I think, than I'm gonna see the facade of that building. And, you know, I know that we saw 6 or 7 different treatments to that garage and none of them were palatable. So that's the other issue too. All 6 of those were placeholder aesthetic artwork that just didn't do anything for us, and we still are stuck with a 6-story tall garage in the middle of the township.
Okay.
So I think all that stuff really needs to be revisited. I think federal needs to wrap their head around it and show us a legitimate product and not hypotheticals at this point, because we're at the do or die stage now for this thing,
Well, you
and we don't know what we're getting.
still have land development.
Understood.
Yeah.
But you're not going through land development until you know what you're developing, and this is what you're going to develop. And we don't know what you're planning on developing because we haven't gotten a full comprehensive picture of the treatment of this building and how it looks in the township. So I think we're all in agreement that that's a necessity as part of this.
Not a problem.
And just remember that a lot of, each step of the way, your comment that you made was said, and the board is trying to be cooperative and helpful, but you say, oh, no, you remember, you still have the next step. Well, you still got plenty of this, and I think, I'm not entirely sure the board has gotten the information it's looking for. So since we're kind of coming down to the last few approvals that the board is giving, I think this becomes even that much more important. And if they don't have it, I'm not entirely sure they can make a decision.
Understood.
Yeah, good. Okay.
Other than that, I have no problem if we're setting a date.
June 3rd, right?
June 5th.
5th.
Oh, 5th, okay.
Hope.
Yeah, hold on. So normally, we propose a date for a public hearing, then it goes to the board for vote. Now we're setting a date as of June 5th for the actual date of the hearing.
So you want the extra step then of?
I'm not saying that I need
June 5th
that.
for the full board and then moving it to July for the hearing?
Are we okay with eliminating that step and having the hearing?
I guess does the board have to approve that advertising date, or can the committee approve an advertising date?
That's your internal procedure. Technically, you don't even have to have a board approval to set the date because the NPC is dictating when you have to have that hearing within the 45 days of the day of the application. So
Okay,
it's your call. It's a long-winded way of saying that.
so we'll entertain some public comment on just the hearing, if there's any to be had. And then I'll look for another commissioner to support the hearing date. Any public-
I guess a question I have is what kind of commitment do you have to get the engineered plan? And then, did you commit to the traffic study for McMahon to review?
I think I just did.
I thought you did too, so.
No, I was going to
guess
submit
the
it
question is,
with land development plans, but if you wanted it at the conditional use stage, we'll speed it up.
But could it be done
so
by
if we're
June
gonna,
5th?
if we're gonna have the hearing on the 5th, then I think, I mean, Anton, how long do you need to review that traffic study?
I want to speak for Chad, but I will. Maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Okay, and I would like a similar period of time to review the site plan. So if you can get us the site plan and the traffic study 2 weeks before the June 5th hearing, then we can.
Which is what, like tomorrow?
Next week,
It's 2 weeks.
like a week from today.
The 22nd, right?
A week from today, I'll see what I can do. And if I can't, I'll have to ask for a continuance. We were specifically told that if we filed by a certain date, that it would be June 5th, and we did.
Okay, so it's the 22nd.
Okay.
Would be the 22nd of May is when we would need those things from you. To be able to review them and give comments, but that doesn't, you're right. You could,
Understand.
they could continue the hearing.
Sure.
Okay. All right, so we're tentatively set for June 5th, as long as we have documents to be reviewed by the 22nd.
That is correct. And if you have to advertise before then, and if I don't live up to my end of the bargain, then we'll have to just
Continue.
continue.
Any problems with that?
Nope.
Public comments? Okay, done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is the fence for the outdoor education center at the library. We actually have some quotes for the fence.
Since it's going on our property, we just got to pick, say yes, and then pick the contractor. That's what we have to do.
So, yeah, I saw that, and I saw that there's 3 bids, and are we obligated to take the lowest bid? These
No,
are-
because it doesn't even have to get bid, right? What's the amount for it?
The estimate is
Yeah,
12,000,
so you're under the 19. We don't even need a bid.
Just need 3 quotes in
Yeah.
writing. You're good.
Yeah, these are 3 proposals, not 3 bids.
Right.
so I just saw that one was a actual Upper Wound Township business.
Is there a recommendation from the library on which contractor
I
that?
don't know that. Is Parker here? No, there isn't. I wanted to ask,
Take the one.
we were out there the other day doing a building inspection, and there are no stakes, there are no lines, there's no, we can't even inform the neighbors of where the fence is gonna go before it goes up, so.
Yeah, I realize that. The survey is being finalized and we can stake it immediately after it's finalized. When is the time frame for the fence to go in?
I don't know. There's no timeline.
Okay,
Just, they got the money, they're ready, they've been hoping for it for a long time.
Okay.
And they'd like to let the neighbors know what's happening.
Likewise. We'd like to see it done.
I would like to, in that case, I would like to see the contractor that's in the township do it. I think they might, I don't know if they're lowest bidder.
I think they are the lowest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and use it, anything, just go ahead and approve it and get this done and started.
Okay.
Yeah, Main Street fence was the lowest.
I thought there was one lower. I was wrong. Oh, good, we'll move that forward. So move that forward to the,
Yeah.
So that would be Main Street? Is that what you're, okay.
any public comment? Any other comments? Okay. Moving right along. Next item on the agenda is a memorandum of understanding between the DiMarzio family and the township regarding the placement of historical signage.
This is just going back and forth. They, I guess Matt or whoever sent them what they wanted in the memorandum, they just signed it and sent it back. So,
Yeah, sure, there was,
Ready to
so
go.
this was identified as one of the locations for an historic sign. And we had talked about a variety of ways of memorializing that agreement with the property owner. We talked about an easement, we had talked about a memorandum of understanding, and that was the preferred approach from the property owner. So Alex prepared a draft MOU. We sent that to the property owner, asked him to give us his thoughts, and he sent it to us signed. Said that it looks fine, and he signed it. So you have an agreement that is actually signed by one party, and essentially it's just that. It's a simple agreement that says he gives us permission to put that sign there. Either party can cancel the agreement. I think it's within, I forget how many days it was, 30 days or something. Yeah. So it's just a simple agreement, but I think it satisfies, it helps us accomplish what we're looking to accomplish.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you both tracking that down, because this is one of those things where we have historical signs throughout the township and we don't really have any MOUs or anything dictating them being placed. So I think this is a good step forward as we continue this initiative. The DiMarzios have been extremely helpful throughout this process and have also been very excited about this occurring on their property as well. So I think it's great. Thanks for doing that. There's one thing, however, the fiscal impact and the source. It says the cost of the sign and the cost of the installation. I assume that both of those things will be absorbed by the township?
Yes.
Okay, so the sign is already purchased. I'm under the impression.
Has it been purchased?
Yeah, that was one of the three, and Mr. Elsier has graciously been housing that in his office.
Do we have the posts as well? Do you know?
We have everything with the faceplate.
We have the faceplate, but
The printing, right.
Okay.
And I believe, and Susan's here if she has anything to add to this, but we're in the process of finalizing the imagery and the copy for the sign. We have a timeline of June to have that wrapped up and done, so we get this thing printed and installed. So I think we have all the parts and pieces at this point, including a signed MOU.
So, yeah, as soon as we sign the MOU, then we could actually meet with the property owner and decide the location.
Yep.
So our title page has a typo in it. Association, and this should be commission in the second line.
Where? I'm sorry.
Historical Association and Historical Association.
Oh, yeah. The commission and the
Commission. Fix the typo.
I don't think it changes anything, but it's wonderful.
Substantively, it's fine. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, we'll fix the typo.
Okay. So we'll move that for action. Any public comment? Okay. All right, next item on the agenda. Single-use plastic bag ban. We've seen this sample ordinance. I was hoping we'd have some conversation about this. I have some questions about what happens when, like, a family shows up at Mason Mill Park to picnic that day, and they're bringing their refreshments in plastic bags. Are they not single-use bags because they're reused?
Okay.
It's
That
all
is
over the
not the
map.
purpose of the ordinance.
I understand that. It's not
Right?
the purpose of the
And-
ordinance. So you're saying, eventually they'll go away because they won't be there.
Well, that's the hope, right?
I'm not, listen, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm really anticipating that people get overexcited about getting the ban done and nothing happens. Nothing happens in Harrisburg, nothing happens beyond this room. And we've seen that already, but a lot of other things, like, states legalizing marijuana, Harrisburg's not doing that. The federal government's not doing that. It's just piece here, piece here, piece here. So my fear is that we do it here and no more energy takes place on getting this done in Harrisburg. I'd like to put something in this ordinance to tie it to that.
That essentially says, I know where you're going, but you're essentially saying that if the state or the federal statutes were to change or to be put in place, that it would negate your ordinance?
Or that, yeah. Similar. I mean, you have to come up with the language. I'm not exactly sure I want to do that, but I'm sick and tired of dead ends. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think the way that this ordinance will function, right, is you're legislating from your level, right? So, I mean, you'll come up with your terms and parameters that you want to use here on the prohibition, and if subsequently the state comes up with some kind of plastic ordinance or statute that, you know, conflicts with yours, they'll preempt it, unfortunately,
Right.
just by operation. So we have to just go back and then either amend the ordinance in that section where it's conflicted, or we repeal the whole thing and then we just
Or what if they don't?
Well, then your just ordinance continues in effect in Upper Moreland in perpetuity.
Because the unfortunate reality of that too is, you know, there could be some asinine ordinance passed in the state level that says there are no bags but plastic,
Right.
right? And then our ordinance means nothing at that point. And I hope that it doesn't go in that direction. I understand your point, and my argument to this the whole time is we can only do what we can do to legislate from our level. And I think we feel fairly strongly about this. Some of us do. And my understanding of how this is going to work is banding together on a local level to show that there is a passion for it and hopefully push it forward. And I was thinking about this over the weekend, and I was thinking about all the data that's coming out about plastic bags and microplastics and all this other stuff. To me, this is equivalent of hearing that asbestos causes cancer.
50 years ago.
Right. We heard that, and what do we do with asbestos? Are you still grabbing hot plates out of your oven with asbestos gloves? Probably not. Our houses are no longer lined in asbestos.
Well,
don't
we
expect
live
it.
with asbestos. It's here.
We
it's
do.
all over the place.
Correct, but there's no, well, there should not be any more of it manufactured. There should not be any more of it sold at a retail level. And so the best that we can do is stop that retail ability in our community and drive the point home that we don't agree with it. Of course, there will be other communities that do, and there's nothing we can do to block that. But hopefully with time and more data and understanding of what's going on, more people and more communities will grab onto this as well.
And several already have. And
Yes,
that's-
we have a lot of neighbors who have.
So that is my only hesitation, that nothing will get done in Harrisburg. And it'll all be this community, that community.
I'll give you an analogy, Commissioner Spearing. I mean, if you think about the Uniform Construction Code, right? So when that became standardized in, what, 98 or 99, right? What did it do? It basically said, all right, local ordinances, if you have stricter provisions than what is contained in this global set of statutes, then you're free to retain those, because you obviously have thought this problem through, more so than we have. And the same thing continues today, right? Even if you have a standard in that UCC that you think that's not strict enough, or, you know, we don't want that in there, you can apply to the state, you go through that process, and they look at your ordinance and they say, all right, it's stricter, you're allowed to adopt that ordinance. I imagine that's what would happen in a scenario like this, because as you've alluded to, I mean, we're probably up to about 20 municipalities in the state now that have adopted this specific ban. So by the time they get around to anything, and maybe a year or two, you're gonna have a lot more municipalities that have these ordinances already kind of fleshed out.
I mean, I'm not even sure, but I think there's parts of Pennsylvania that are still exempt from, you know, the emissions. Everyone?
Everyone.
Statewide for emissions.
I'm trying to think if I remember my western side of Pennsylvania, up to a couple of years ago, there weren't emissions in most counties. I don't know if that's true. I imagine maybe that they finally caught up, but you're right. I mean, progress is slow at the state level always.
Now it is because of the code readers. That's how they do it now. It kicks up a code for it, emissions, you're done. You have to fix it. So it is everywhere because of the code readers. That's how it's done now. It used to be put in your tailpipe, they got rid of that. Now it's,
They had plugins,
They plugged this in.
and they still had exemptions in.
there's exemptions, but you gotta pay for them. No, and across the state now, that's how it's done.
I
Across the
wasn't aware.
state, you can pay $500 and say, spend that to make it better. But if it doesn't work, they can still give you the sticker. But you have to make an attempt now.
Okay, well, that's promising. Enforcement, we talked about this for the plastic bags.
So the way it's contemplated now, I mean, I can tell you enforcement-wise, whether it's adopted, it just kind of goes with an internal enforcement program, meaning, you know, you violated this ordinance and then we've got a scaled fine system. Because there's no state statute, of course, that you're modeling this off of, there's no guidance as to whether you could then go to like a summary citation, for example, and take it to an MDJ in the criminal sense, such as if you've got a property maintenance code violation or something like that. It hasn't been tested, doesn't mean that you guys couldn't adopt that provision of enforcement in your code. But everybody seems to have settled on the model of a scale fine system. And then you would have a local agency law kick in, so there would be some kind of appeal if somebody wanted to appeal to the township, an internal composition of whomever the Board of Commissioners decided to appoint to hear those appeals. Could even be the commissioners themselves. And then you would just take it from there. But of course, you'd have your regular legal remedies on top of that too. So, I mean, if it's a particular business that isn't compliant, then you've got the ability to then take the proof of those violations to a court and seek an injunction or seek civil penalties against them for their violence or violation of the ordinance.
Hopefully
Their
no violence.
yeah, hopefully not.
Hopefully no
violence.
violence.
So that's the way it's set up right now. But I mean, we can obviously have the discussion if you want to take it into the criminal realm to see if it's possible.
I think it's also worth reiterating the fact that we are not planning on having basic plastic bag raids, right? Where code enforcement is going to different facilities and looking for people who are in violation. The idea here is that there's a grace period to wean these out of businesses and institutions. And then once that period for the full implementation of the ordinance is triggered, from there it's basically tips to code enforcement that institution is under violation. I don't want, and I think that our administration doesn't really want, code enforcement needing to go from business to business on a rotating basis to make sure that people are carrying this out. That was never the intention. There's been some fears about additional work for an already strapped group of folks, and we don't want to do that. But we do want to make sure that fines are processed, and if we do get tips, then we follow up on those things.
Okay.
Just one last point, Commissioner. The fine would be obviously on a rolling basis too. So, you have 3 strikes, so to speak, $50, $100, $200 for the third offense. And then every day that violation isn't corrected, then you would continue to fine at $200 per day for every day they're still in violation.
Okay, so if this ordinance is, well, do we have to have a hearing for this?
You wouldn't have to have a public hearing because this is a regular ordinance. That doesn't have to do with land development or zoning.
Okay.
Now, you certainly can have one if you'd like. Of course, there'll be public comment during the, the presentation. Of the ordinance,
Right.
But you can always opt the extra step and have a public hearing with a court report if you'd like.
I don't think it's necessary. I think we've had our public hearings already. If we voted on this July or August, when would we look at the implementation?
So I think the sample ordinance you have contemplates 90 days from the date that the ordinance goes into effect as far as the grace period goes. So take 3 months from July, and what we're looking at in October would really kick in.
And then the fine structure that you've outlined in the ordinance is on par with neighboring amounts.
Right, I mean, that sample ordinance we've given you has been replicated everywhere. I think Newtown right now in Bucks County is contemplating it at the same time you guys are, and I think their fine structure is just maybe $50 higher per violation.
Okay,
But,
and I said before, I'm ready to vote. That's not a problem.
yeah, I know.
I'll give you, I called Kevin, I thought, So my wife called me, said, can you stop at the store on the way home? I'm in a business truck. We have bags in our car. 3 rolls in a plastic bag. Ham, cheese, both in an individual plastic bag. She wanted a bagel, I'm just saying. And then, of course, I had to get my donuts. I get donuts every time I go somewhere. And Sean said that this morning in our meeting, it shows. And then I put it in the bag to go home with from the grocery store. And I used that bag this morning to put my ham sandwiches in that I took to work. So I'm the one that gets penalized because I do things right. And yet I clean up all these places, and that's not the problem, in my opinion, is the bags. I see all the other plastics. We can't, Paul will tell you, we can't even keep up with regular trash problems. Go to Giant at the end, you'll see circulars, paper, all over the place. Paper blows just as well. Just go to the path behind Giant. Kevin brought up, just go up to Walmart. These places, they close their dumpster once when we're there, and then they never close them again. It's the trash is our problem, all of it, not just this. The other thing is, so if I go to a restaurant, and I've had 2 restaurants complain already, if I get a $15 drink, I gotta drink it out of a paper straw.
What kind of drinks are you getting that you drink it out of a straw?
I drink Diet Coke, obviously.
Diet Coke. It is Diet Coke.
Does this ordinance include straws? What's that? It does?
I believe, yes, that you guys did opt.
That was present, I just,
I think there was an exemption, there was a time item for the straws, or a limited number.
but so far, the two
Straw by
places I've had,
request.
they both complained.
Strawberry request, yeah.
Paper straw by request.
So I understand your issues, Commissioner McFatridge, and
Mine's just issues for me, I'm not talking from the federal.
yeah, no, I get it. And litter has been a problem forever. That will be a problem continuously. It's a different issue in my opinion, and I think that litter will potentially go down if you're giving people less things to litter with. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, which you alluded to, is the convenience of having objects purchased at a store and using plastics, and then reusing that plastic for your own convenience throughout your daily life of living. I will say that when I buy rolls, I have a reusable bag that I put those in. When I buy donuts, I have a reusable bag that I put those in. When I purchase those things and I bring them home, they're in a reusable bag. If I buy ham and cheese at a store, I buy them from Sam's Market that puts everything in wax paper and then in a brown paper bag. So there are ways and there are people around here who are doing everything opposite of what you're doing in a way that makes our community cleaner and safer in the products that they're purchasing. So there are tons of ways around this. It's just there's a convenience factor that people are so used to in the way that they live, that instead of taking one thing at a time and trying to make it better when you know that it's bad, we're continuing to hold on to it because it makes our lives easier. And that's no way in my mind to keep something going. I know that this is bad. I would be doing a disservice to myself and to everybody else if I were to not find a way to overcome what's going on that's bad.
I just find trash much worse.
So do I, but I think that's a different
We
issue.
can't,
Trash.
no, it's the same issue
plastic
as
bag,
for
man.
enforcement. We can't keep up with that for enforcement.
Okay, so when was the last time we wrote a lettering ticket?
Ask Paul, I've told him Giant, I've told him all these places. You don't get to them.
I think too with this, like, fines are one thing, right? But
No, but-
we know 100%. If we pass this ordinance tomorrow, that whole corridor in Ward 4 of the big box stores is gonna follow suit, and they're gonna take 75% of the plastic bags out of this community. Like that, because they're doing it already. There are initiatives that these stores are already implementing without even having ordinances behind them to do it, because they know that it's the wave of the future. So we do it now, we're already making a giant impact without needing to enforce anything.
I get that part of it. I'm getting down to the details in this ordinance.
Yeah.
Do we want to deviate from anything that we have?
I think it's fine the way it's written. I think it's
10
good.
cents for a bag, for a paper bag?
That goes back to the institution. It goes back to the store. Because they're gonna have to brunt the cost of buying paper and
Well, so by this ordinance, are they required to charge 10 cents for a bag?
No, it's just their option. they could hand you a reusable bag when you walk in if they so want to do so. I mean, some of the big box retailers have that option at the front of the stores now.
I mean, in my opinion, one of the best things around here is when you go to Sam's Club or Costco and they just give you a big cardboard box.
Okay. Other commissioners?
My opinion about enforcement is, well, when was the last time somebody got fined for not shoveling their walk in 24 hours? Or the last time someone didn't put their trash cans away, within 12 hours? And lots of ordinances that have fines, but they're not enforced. What enforces them is public opinion. And that would be the same, this with the bag ordinance.
Other commissioners? Any other public comment?
So needless to say, I think this is very important, and it's not just litter, it's the fact that it's plastic. And as Suzette pointed out last time, plastic is toxic, and it absorbs toxic compounds. It breaks down into microplastics, which we're now eating, breathing, and drinking. And it's a much bigger problem than just the litter. And I know as someone who does stream keeping for Pennypack, it's mainly shopping bags that I find in the creek. And I think this is a very important thing to do for our health.
I get that, and I agree with you. What I'm having a problem with is we're going to stop there. Where's
We have to at this point. It would be like saying we're going to ban gasoline-powered cars right now. Someday that may occur, but we don't have the infrastructure to do that right now. And in a way, we don't have the infrastructure to ban all plastics at this point. But we can ban something that really, in general, some people reuse them, but most people don't. They take them home and they throw them away within minutes. So it's something that's totally replaceable and not required. And so it's the low-hanging fruit, so to speak. And this is, again, what we have things in place already that it's easy to replace a shopping bag. I didn't grow up with plastic shopping bags. They didn't exist when I was a kid. And so they don't really need to exist now. And they're a problem. And they are, in a way, the tip of the iceberg. And so this is a good place to start. And again, more and more and more townships are doing this, which will give the push for Harrisburg to do it. I mean, that's the way things work. You start at the grassroots, you think globally, act locally, and that's what we have to do.
So 10 years ago, we were publicly aware of PFAS. And all this action about getting it out of the water. But no, we're not cleaning up the water that's already there. The energy level just stopped. The federal government stopped.
I guess I don't totally agree with that. There's a big push now to regulate PFAS and do what we can to get it out. Obviously, to get it out of groundwater is very difficult. And very expensive. And so, what we can do is stop putting more in, but it'd be incredibly hard to take it out, what's already there.
It's called a forever chemical for a reason.
Yeah, right.
We sort of screwed it up to begin with.
Right, so you can clean up groundwater, but it's incredibly hard and very expensive.
I'd just like to see them clean it up before they dump it back into the creek.
Well,
They're not doing that. So that's why I get disenchanted about, hey, here's all these communities banning plastic bags. Where's the plastic bag manufacturer in the environmental?
They're fighting it like crazy. That's what they're doing. This is the fossil fuel industry, and this is how they're trying to keep themselves alive, because they can see electric cars are in the future, and they can't fight those anymore. They did for decades, but they've lost that battle now. And so now they're picking up a new one, and we need to just keep fighting for our health and for our environment and for our kids and grandkids. We can't just say, oh, this is hard and it's not happening fast, so we're not going to bother. You know, we've got to tilt this windmill, so to speak.
Any other public comment?
I don't want to discredit what you're saying. I agree 100% that this is step one, and then there are multiple more steps to make this a bigger impact throughout the state. I think that's extremely important, and your point is very well taken. However, we gotta, for this community, we can do this, and so I think we should do this. But you're right.
And we have a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Constantine.
Hi, I just wanted to make a comment about the straws. The way I understood it was that the straws would still be allowed, but you'd have to ask for them. And that was my understanding of how that was written in. And I just wanted to...
Request, but I thought it said paper straw.
Yeah, I thought it says paper straw too.
Oh, is that right? Okay. And as far as, you know, the idea of having a drink, you know, without a straw, there's always the option of using your lips as opposed to a straw.
Kevin and I drink fast that way.
I mean, we haven't, how long have we been recycling since 90s? You know, and we still have, businesses don't have recycle cans out in front of them, where they have a trash can and everything goes in there. So this is just, I'm not comfortable with, I'm okay with this, but I'm just uncomfortable with people taking this as, you know, a celebration of environmental accomplishments and not taking that energy forward. And we've been doing that for too long.
Well, with recycling, you see, it's mandated by the state.
Yeah.
And recycling, which is, you know, gets sorted and resold, costs the township more than it does to dispose of trash.
Right.
So,
We found that out.
and there's no help from the state.
Not anymore.
Supplement it, right?
Still get a grant.
Oh, we get a grant. Every
Barely. It doesn't. All right. Any other comments? Any objections to the ordinance? Okay, so we can advertise this, move it out of committee. Any objection?
Nope. I asked for it the other day.
June 5th. Is that okay? Or do you need more time?
Well, we discussed earlier today, I mean, we can turn that ordinance around very quick, but, you guys have a loaded meeting on June.
All right. So let's.
3 other ordinances.
We do.
3 public
We do.
hearings and a couple of other things that will probably take some time, so
So why don't we,
I would say, I would recommend July, but we can turn it
okay,
around.
I'm okay with July, and, I'm not a real fan of changing it as far as being different than this community is and that community is. I'd like to see universal. We have to break down our fines and see where they are.
Well, you have at least 3 of them already, right?
Right,
So,
with 4 more coming.
Yeah.
Same ordinance, same language. Just the earliest one in Norbith that started all this just didn't have the straws or the, I call them the styrofoam containers.
Yep.
Whereas the new ones do. But the fine structures, everything else is set up the exact same.
All right. All right, we'll just leave it in committee then for next month, and we'll just see if there's any public comment on it, and we'll move it out of committee in July, for July.
Can we,
let's just set the meeting for
Set it for-
July now.
no, I would say put it on for June if, at the tail end of the agenda, and then if it gets pushed to July, we do that, but who knows, we might be able to push through some of this stuff and have very little comment
I don't think so.
on this ordinance. I like to be an optimist, Kevin.
So if it's advertised for voting in June, it could just be continued. Yeah, okay.
If we're gonna advertise it for June, I have to advertise it by Wednesday of this week.
All right, so let's just leave it for July. Fine.
And for the June package, just give us the exact ordinance.
Sure.
That's all. We'll have to discuss it, but just so we see the exact ordinance.
What is the first Monday in July? The 3rd?
Which we won't be here for, right?
Yeah, I think it'd be the 10th, is that right?
Yeah. 10. So then it's a 60-day window instead of a 90-day window, since we're losing a month in voting.
I mean, it goes into effect in, October or November.
Yeah.
You just leave, if the ordinance says 90 days, it's gonna be 90 days. And really, they do need that much of time.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. Thank
But
you.
our,
The only thing we did say in our pre-meeting tonight, this morning, we should send the business owner something now that this is coming. Instead of in July, we pass it and then give it to them. I think we need the database anyway. There's 1,400 businesses on our rolls. So they can generate a letter and send it to them saying, ask for a comment, but just so they're aware that we're going to vote on it.
I'm in favor of that.
That Matt had talked about this morning, and Alex, so I would say just go ahead and generate that.
Now, is that what our meeting schedule is that we advertise? Our commissioner meetings that we're not meeting on the 3rd? I don't remember.
It would have been advertised in January as, July 10th.
Yeah, right.
The general meeting would have been. So you don't need to do a special advertisement.
Okay. Okay. Next item on the agenda is, here we go. There we go. Ready the reports. We have no code enforcement officer here tonight, but he has given us a report. Wait a second, yeah, that's right. No redevelopment, no other items. Code enforcement department gave us our report for the last 2 years. You have any highlights on this report, Matt? I don't have any issues with it.
Yeah, not that anything was pointed out.
Public Works and Recycling Report.
My April report for Public Works and Sanitation is in the books, but I have nothing further to add. But are there any questions?
Schedule for paving.
We just received the contracts last week. I have to get approval from the state, and then usually June, middle of June, milling begins.
Milling beginning in middle of June. Okay.
I don't know if you had anything to do with it, but all the poles, curbs, yeah, that, all the poles in Ward 4 that have been laying on the ground for over 6 months, they need to be installed by Pico. So thank you. I don't know. Okay.
I put them in myself.
Yeah, no, I know we've been like calling about those to say, when are you gonna lift these poles, but finally, they're up.
Good.
So, good job.
Any issues from either of those reports? Code enforcement or Public Works, recycling? Okay, moving along. We have engineers report.
Thanks, Kevin. My engineer's report's in your packet. The only thing that I really want to highlight is that we've been coordinating with the contractor for the Carson Simpson Farm Stream Bank project, and it's looking like that's going to start the week of May 15th. So we've notified the church, and so that you'll see some activity out there. But other than that, I don't have anything specific to add, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
My only comment is I don't want to lose it. We still have to do something with the outfall at Sycamore and Parkside. So maybe we could see a proposal for that next month. I don't expect.
Where do we leave off on that? Because I think there were some challenges with that.
Yeah, I think what we had decided was that the best route was to replace that inlet right before it discharges onto that property with an inlet with a sump on it to catch some sediment, and to reset the pipe as it goes onto the property. But I don't think,
Well,
I mean, I know.
We excavate all that stuff that's there because it's covering the pipe now.
Yeah, we can, when the pipe is replaced, the sediment could be removed to a certain point. I mean, within the right of way, or however much the property owner.
So there is a township easement across that property. Were you aware of that? Did you see that when you,
There's a sewer easement.
that's all that's there? So there's no easement for our stormwater?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Without an easement, we're dumping it on the guy's property.
For 50 years.
Weren't there also some really difficult grades there that whether it be adequate fall to?
Yeah, we surveyed the property, and there is not adequate fall between the discharge pipe from the inlet and the backside of the property to grade any kind of consistent drainage swale through there. So that's kind of why it stopped where it stopped. I don't know that would work out from a grade standpoint, but I think the best that you could do is to remove some of the accumulated sediment that's there and then put a deeper inlet in the street so that we could prevent it from silting in as quickly as it did the last time, which I'm hearing is 50 years.
That's right. Well,
There's 3 feet of silt right off the bat.
Yeah.
If you take it all the way back from the street to the back of the property, it used to be graded down, and now it looks like it's almost level, because that's
Yeah.
how much.
mature
is in there.
trees, runoff from all the properties, the whole neighborhood.
So you're saying you could put a grate or something before it hits the
A
property?
sump in
right
in front.
Yeah, I mean, that would be, Dave and I were out there, and we think that was kind of the best case scenario. When you put the pipe back in that discharges from the inlet to the property, you could hold it as high as you possibly could, and then take out the sediment because right now it's like the pipe just kind of goes into the side of this sediment pile.
Yeah.
So that could be cleaned out when you do that work.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. That whole area, as you're aware, you live in the neighborhood, it's a bowl right there in that intersection. So all the water goes right there. And there's two inlets right across from that one where it discharges. All the water in that neighborhood goes right there and discharges. So.
Yeah, the thing is that there's no
closer inlet to take it anywhere
there's no
else.
place to even put, even if you wanted to connect a pipe from that inlet and make it so it didn't discharge to the property and it went somewhere, you'd have nowhere to run it to.
Well,
The sewer easement through to, is it Fair Oaks?
Fair Oaks, yeah.
But then you'd need to go all the way
Carton.
down to Carton, yeah.
It's a long way to go.
But
But-
if this would stop, I mean, the day we were there, I mean, there's chunks of asphalt that day. I mean, a lot of them.
And we also saw
The thought would be that those chunks of asphalt would then be in the sump of the inlet and be able to be sucked out.
That's what I'm saying, at least that's helping.
Yeah,
It also looked like we had some, I don't know where it came from, but lining of, corrugated metal pipe that was like a tarred lining that was ending up there too in pieces. So those infrastructure pieces have to be evaluated to make sure that, you know, they're not deteriorating also, wherever they're coming from. So I don't expect it fixed now, but just at least put it on the agenda for next month so we can discuss it. Anybody else? Engineering report, upcoming, all right. Next item on the agenda. Landscape architect. Do you have anything for us on that, Jim?
Nothing outside of what's in the report.
Did I see that, no. Any questions, landscape architect's report?
None.
Is, as far as landscaping goes, Fair Oaks, finished?
Fair Oaks is finished.
Okay.
The maintenance period's up at the end of this month. We walked it the other day with Pat Stasio. There are shrub or two that his office is going to replace. They've already been replaced.
Yes.
Already been replaced one time during the maintenance period, and
Okay.
Pat agrees that he's gonna just do them. Just about 2 shrubs. Other than that, everything looks okay from a landscape perspective.
Any questions, engineer's report, landscape architect's report? All right, hearing none. Anton? Good evening.
Good evening. You have our May report in your packets. The one thing I'd like to bring attention to, besides, if we're going to questions, is the Warminster Road sidewalk project.
Right.
We did have a bid opening a little over a week ago. We received 6 bids, ranging from $258,000 to $523,000. So reviewing the bids, the parent load builder is LB Construction. They're out of Springhouse. So we're just double checking all the documentation, but they appear to be the low bidder on the project. We're going to prepare a recommendation for award for the board to consider at their next meeting. And just so you're aware, that $258,000, it's within our estimate. It does include an additional allowance for some additional paving on Warminster Road if PennDOT requires it, and then there's another allowance for unforeseen in that $258,000.
While you're on Warminster Road, I saw the owner of the last house, so did Kevin at a different time. Both of them wanted to know if we were rebuilding the wall that we'd be taking down. They wanted the wall rebuilt, because we'll be taking it down. I'm pretty sure it's gonna come down.
Yeah, I think by the time you end up putting in the sidewalk, there's not going to be much of a wall. remain.
I was gonna ask him either to come here, or you talked to him also.
Yeah.
Different time. Because he mentioned it to you, and then you said it, and I was down there and found a live wire, and then it all blew up. I didn't get a chance to talk to him much more. But we're taking away their wall.
Right. I haven't seen the profile of what it's gonna look like, you know, without the wall, because, I'm standing in the street, look at the elevation going up to the house, and we're cutting into that wall. That wall goes away, we're cutting into the bank, and elevation still goes up. So I don't know how we eliminate the wall. I was surprised to see that.
Yeah, I think that all that was remaining is like, what, 8 inches or something in the wall, and they had a couple steps going up from the road that you can grade it within, you know, ADA requirements up to their front step without any steps. But, I mean, we can look at what level of wall could be remaining there.
So what we don't see is the new grade. Is it at the level the curb's at now, or is it slightly elevated?
For what
Sidewalk.
The sidewalk's gonna be above the existing grade, because right now it's just the paving that goes out. So we're gonna come up 8 inches, you know, the 2% across for the sidewalk for 7 feet. So we're raising probably a foot from what it is now.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Sure.
That's cool.
Yeah, we have cross sections in that area.
I have some concerns. Anybody else on Mr. Road? Let's take this one thing at a time here.
It's listed here that the 2040 grant was for 200K. What's that additional 58 coming from? We have this all budgeted, right? I know we do.
Yeah, there's not a lot of wiggle room in it, so we got a $200,000 grant from Monco 2040. Our match is 40,000, which gives us 240. That's essentially what the low bid is, minus the alternate. So again, there's no wiggle room in that. So 240, if there's no problems or no surprises, would get it built.
My concerns are all this construction at Blair Mill and Easton. We're anticipating some. I mean, we're actually involved in some, Horsham's doing some. All the inlets, so additional impervious, additional runoff at that intersection goes directly to Fair Oaks Basin. I'd like to, and we have issues there. So can we ask Horsham for some funding for some of the issues we're dealing with at Fair Oaks Basin for the additional stormwater that we are going to inherit?
Can we ask them that? I'm sure we can. Will they? I think the answer is going to be a polite no.
Well, I know that's the answer if we don't ask.
Well, it's the answer I would give them if they asked me the same question. I mean, if they came to us, like, water is moving all over the place. So, I mean, we're getting water from all sorts of places, and trying to identify and have people pay for the water coming from their property, I think, is challenging.
I'm just looking for an understanding that we are already incurring some of their stormwater, and that there's a lot of money out there for this Easton Road and Blair Mill Road project, and we know we're going to get more than we already have. And you know, we're looking for fixes at Fair Oaks because we're already overtaxed at that basin.
How much would you calculate we would want to ask for?
I'd have to talk to both Anton and Jim to get a fair answer.
Yeah, and they'll starting their design on the next phase for Blair Mill Road widening. So if there's opportunities to, I think we can look at those plans together.
Yeah, that's
if there's
what-
opportunities to include some improvements there for what you're saying, maybe that's what we do too.
Yeah.
Those stormwater pipes are owned by the state once they're in, correct? We don't touch stormwater on Blair Mill.
You think we're not taking stormwater from
No, what I'm saying is those pipes are.
The pipes
state
are
owned.
the states, yes.
Right.
But where's the water going?
I agree, but what about the state?
Yes, the state, I mean, is the state's not, is paying for the project? I mean, they have no choice about inheriting it. Yes, I agree that we should ask the state, but good luck with that. You know, we've already been down this road. I'm identifying where
Where's
improvements,
coming from?
where the improvements are being made, and who's driving the truck that's making the changes. So one of the changes we're incurring is more stormwater. So I'm just looking for a contribution to evaluate that. If you want to, you know, do a mathematical equation on the square footage of increased impervious, you know, like some of these ordinances do, like for authorities across the state, we could just initiate it there. I'm just looking for some identification of the stormwater we're getting and some help managing it. And I'd like to ask.
So what would be the number, just to work with Jim and?
Talk to Jim and Anton about it, and we know that, you know, this design works ahead of us, so,
It'll be based off the square footage of whatever the impervious is.
So would we be asking,
How much it is, yeah.
would we be asking,
Clear though, we're talking about the future phase of the Blair Mill widening that takes the 5-lane section from Whitmer Commerce to, like essentially the Walmart, like south.
yeah, that doesn't all come to us, does it?
Well,
Yeah,
it
goes
Yeah, it does,
comes to
yeah,
you.
yeah, it does.
It comes to you, but via,
not a fair oath.
yeah,
I just know Blair Mill and Easton does.
commerce.
Yeah,
And there will be
That'll end up at Easton.
stormwater management as part of that portion of the project. This hasn't been designed yet, but
okay. And who's gonna own that? Horsham Township, PennDOT?
not PennDOT, Horsham Township. PennDOT doesn't own anything. And honestly, PennDOT's probably not even gonna end up owning the storm pipes that are put in the street. They
Right.
require the township to take ownership of those.
Once they touch it, right?
Yeah, with, PennDOT could fund a portion of the project to put them in, but they're not gonna take ownership of them in perpetuity. They're gonna make Horsham do that.
Okay, it's just a thought that, you know, we're incurring the expensive, we constantly wrestling with these ideas and what's going on with our infrastructure. And, I think we need to identify the contributors.
Showing right to the bridge that we're looking at replacing, so you might as well go right to there. Any new things on it?
That's just starting into the design on it, and then we're gonna work on the, I think we talked about grant application for DCED MTF in July
Okay.
this year.
Woodminster Road Bridge, we were told a year ago that the project was postponed for a year so utility companies can get in there.
Correct.
The bridge is closed, nothing's happening with the bridge, utility companies are there now. Very disappointed with that. You know, and I think do we have a finished plan on this bridge?
Yes, yeah.
I'm just curious, you know, they told us that we need another year for utilities and they're in there now, so I'm just wondering if they actually finished the design of the bridge.
Yeah, they had that complete for bidding.
While we're on that, it looks like the closure duration is extended by 2 months also. Wasn't it originally August?
The ones they've been advertising, like, this year has been through October.
Has it?
Yeah.
But you're right, the original one was 6 months from April.
It was 6 to 8 months, the original.
Well, I can't remember if I was here last month, so don't.
County Bridge, Montgomery, Moreland Avenue, No action.
Yeah, I haven't heard any updates. I can follow up, but they were going through property owner coordination, I think, the last time I spoke with them.
I'm gonna skip over 611 right now. Blair Mill Road. For us. Are we settled on that as far as,
Yeah, but Alex provided the documents for the property owners. We gotta get those to the property owners and get that part moving forward.
and what are we doing with Maryland Road? Are we, formulating bid documents for that?
Yeah, I think we're finalizing that design. I'll see what our schedule is for bidding that one. I think we still need a sign off from Jefferson, Abington.
Okay. Powerline Trail.
That one would probably need to talk with Pat. There should be another round of TASA grants opening here at the end of May. I think we were in a good spot to get it last time until PICO sent out a blanket, no more trails in PICO right away. Right at the time we submitted the application, even though we had an agreement. But the county said it was high on their list of projects, so hopefully it's something we consider.
I think that's important that, because we did get that exemption from PICO, that we move faster with implementation. And the county's involved in that.
Right, and we have a lot of the design work done, so that's always a good sign for these applications.
I think Bonnet Lane needs to be a discussion item for another committee. But as far as those wires going away, we asked PICO, and we need to ask Comcast and Verizon just to reevaluate that stuff. There's lines that were there from when houses were built. And I don't think we should really be incurring expenses for getting rid of them. They're just hanging there, serving no one.
I thought most of them are on the ground by now.
Not there, they're not. Some of them are dangling. But we need to have a staff meeting with, I don't know how you want to do it individually or with, I can't imagine all of them being in the same room at the same time. It would be awful.
Dave has contacts with them now. I had a big problem in Norway. Dave handled it real quick. So he does have contacts with both.
Yeah, and I mean, when we talked about the wires going underground that go over top of the basketball court, I don't even think I have to. There's parallel lines right next to them. They run behind the back of the in and out.
I think the idea is we'll talk to the utility companies. Anton and I talked about that. I think trying to get them to do the work, I think it's, do we want the project done in the next year, or do we want it done in 5 or 10 years? And if, even in that time frame, we've got the money, I think we try and get them to pay for it, but if they don't, I think we can still move forward with it and get it done.
There's a big analysis there. There's obsolete wires hanging.
I totally agree.
They gotta go away. And we want, at the same time, if all the wires along the Bonnet Lane side of Mill Road can go across the street and strand across Mill Road, up Spring and in the back of the in and out, then we're wide open for our park.
Understood. I guess the question is if the standard is we're trying to get them to do it, I think we should try, but I think if they don't, I still think we ought to just move forward with it and get it done. Because again, we've got the grant money to do it. I think it's gonna fit within our budget, and I'd hate to see us hold that up, and make it contingent on them doing it.
I get that.
Yeah.
But where is their analysis about what those wires are doing? Who are they serving? We can certainly ask them for that. Why do they have to be there? And if they don't have to be there from their perspective, then we're not planning to get rid of them.
You want the 2-year plan or you want the 10-year plan? I think we should try. I definitely think we ought to try. I would encourage you not to get too,
I'd like to see some of that money go to advertising about what these utility companies are doing and say, hey, don't make these taxpayer pay for getting rid of your obsolete wires.
I totally agree. I totally agree. But I think we've got an opportunity to actually get it done.
I get that, I understand that. And that's, the estimate is $250,000.
Right.
Okay.
And we got a grant for it. I mean, if we really, this plan's been on the books now for 20 years.
Right, so we have a grant for that park.
For that part of it, we have.
We could do sidewalks and curbs along Mill Road. Well, we don't have to do curbs there.
Yeah, we can't, we have to, it's really the only one, it's the only part of the project we can do with $215,000. Everything else requires more money because you got to widen things but at least it's part of the plan and it's an important part of the plan.
Well, I think we can get it done for much cheaper than that and use that money, the rest of the park, for something else. So Pico's aware of it. We talked to them. We mentioned it to Verizon. I didn't have any conversation with Comcast at all, but I would certainly like to see wires go away. Okay. What else you got? Traffic report. Anton?
Thank you.
Good answer.
And, you did talk about a grant opportunity we have a deadline for, sorry. Did you say it was July?
Yeah, the DC, the MTF at the end of July for the Maryland Road structure.
Right.
We'll have a design done by then?
We'll have enough along we have a good estimate now.
Okay.
We'll probably submit for construction and inspection to pay for it. For the grant.
So do we need board action for that?
Yeah, there's a resolution and we'll coordinate with Matt and what needs to be put together.
Is that an action item for June 5th?
Would be ready.
What is that?
It could be July. We can do July.
Yeah, June's really busy.
Yeah, I heard June's busy.
All right, July it is.
For June, we don't have to do anything.
So we'll have the resolution available next month? Take a look at it.
Yeah, for CDC, yeah, we'll have an estimate, we'll put an estimate together for.
Okay. EAC. Oh, any public comments on our traffic engineer report and activity? You want to comment on the traffic or you here for EAC?
Oh, I thought I'd try EAC. Don't think I'd be too good on traffic, other than reducing it on Masons Mill Road for trucks, but we'll go there some other time. So we met on May 3rd, and part of our meeting was taken up by analyzing the Earth Day Fair. We thought it went really well. A couple of things we might change for next year is moving speakers out further because some people couldn't hear announcements, and we'd like to try and get the middle school and high school involved more. Of course, we discussed the plastic bag ban, but we won't go there now. And also talked about getting quotes for the fence, and we've already been there. So we did also discuss increasing the use of clean energy and hope that with the building changes in the new building here on the township property, that solar would not only be very seriously considered, but would happen. There are currently, it's my understanding, some grants for townships to go with clean energy, so ones that weren't available before. And so hopefully those would be looked into and we can have solar. And also the EAC would like to remove invasive plants from the wetland in the dog park and along the stream in Veterans Park, like we've done in the past. And the dates are here. We want to do the dog park on June 10th and the stream bank on July 8th. So I'll send those dates to Pat.
Okay,
That's all right?
that's very exciting. Thank you very much for those 2 dates. And I did attend the Earth Day Fair. It was a huge success. I think Commissioner was in charge of weather.
Sure.
Both of you, excellent job.
Thank you. Had lots of help. Anything else?
So we've talked about sustainable initiatives for this building and the police building. So yes, we're looking into those things. I would request the EAC, if they come across any of these grants and as you learn more about them, please generate a list of them, or spreadsheet or something, and supply that to us so we can have that in our back pocket as we go through design. Because it's one thing to say, you know, we should look at these things and we should try to pay for it with grants, but to not have any grant information in front of us is hard to do. But we're definitely open for it, and we'll see how it goes.
So how does the township find out about grants in general?
Mainly by word of mouth and history. I mean, there's some that keep recurring, but mainly word of mouth. There are publications that come out. The state of Pennsylvania puts out notices about grants.
Okay.
I think they even have a
He has a
website.
bunch of them. There's a lot of resources.
The architect told us of 3 of them also that they're looking into for us.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another good point too.
I think there's some things too in the Inflation Reduction Act that would apply. So.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
No. Always a bunch of issues, but I'm just, looking for that student to become part of the EAC.
We have a student.
You said better relationships with the schools and, so thanks for mentioning those things.
Okay. We do have a student that comes to our meetings.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's worked out pretty well
Yep.
because we got all the background stuff and, yeah. So that required a little bit of work because that was really our first student, but the AC got all their background
That was your
checks.
second one.
Yeah, so.
Well, with the one with the background checks, this is the first one for that. And so we got all that done, so.
And we didn't meet
9
in
years.
person until this month.
Yeah.
So. And she was more talkative in person, actually, which
Good.
was kind of nice. Yep. All right.
Okay. Thank you. I skipped over the Eastern Montgomery County Turnpike interchange. You have anything?
We don't have a report. We do have our next meeting on Monday, though. Next Monday.
Like the 15th?
Week from today. So yeah, 15th.
Okay, so
So the next CDC will have a report.
my message to that committee is what happened to the 4 lanes east and west?
We have talked about that.
Keep it up. Any other questions for the EAC? Hearing none, we'll move right along to the Historical Commission. Good evening, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Commissioners, good to be here. Well, you have my report. Do you have any questions or comments? Please be happy to field them. Just of note is that we are going live as soon as we can because it's just not a pushing of a button. There were things that had to happen with the people that support our website, and they'll happen this week. But, they have to happen as they happen. It's not always my time. But then we'll go live. So then we'll have enhanced content and engagement with the community. I give all praise to Mike LaVecchia resident of Ward 6, who amazingly got this all going, and it will be able to, I hope, because it's still in my name, move to the next president. You know, the idea is whether we're here or not personally, we should be able to maintain our own history. So I'm sure it'll happen. You know, things change for the better. I'm not going anywhere today, so.
Can I interject on that point too?
Please do, Commissioner.
Yeah, so it's really exciting this is going through. It's been a lot of work to put this together. Mike's done a great job. I highly recommend people check it out when it does show up, because we input our entire historical inventory into the website. So now you can access all of those points of interest through Google Earth directly through the website. It has information listed for each of the properties. There's maps for a walking tour on there. Like it's a legit, it has legit functionality now. So highly recommend you take a look at it.
Yeah, really, really an amazing project all the way around. I know that we talked earlier about the DiMarzios. That will all be done too. I just wanted to point out that Mr. DiMarzio, Jerry, gave us a wonderful picture of the infamous, at this point, Mr. David Nolan, who had his wonderful retail store in the early 1900s, right in the heart of our downtown. Someone called him the John Wanamaker of Willow Grove, and the more I know about this person, I wish, you know, to have known him in the time. He must have been amazing. But the DiMarzios gave us a wonderful picture, and we're trying to date stamp it as to whether he's standing in his store before it burned to the ground, or was it the store that was moved after the fire and, you know, has become the Willow Inn. So we're looking to that kind of thing. And we've asked them for more information if they have it. Any of us who remember the Willow Inn remember going through the front door and seeing all of those pictures up on the walls. Most of us stood there, we looked at them and just, you know, kept on going. But I don't know where all of them are, but, you know, we'd like to look at them and maybe make copies of them. I'm still waiting upon that from Jerry. Other than that, the conversation involved the birthday of the United States of America coming up, and the ability to have reenactors and maybe other kinds of events around that, using the farmstead since it's so close to Hatboro, and we can do interactive events with Hatboro. Horsham has asked us as well. Everybody knows where the Battle of Crooked Billet was until you ask them. they just kind of glaze over. It was really literally across the street, and some people will know this as personal reference, to the home of Bonnie McDonald, one of our long-term members of the Historical Commission, who lives at Mill and York. And that is where the battle really was. So, and then it went up. Then it went up into the heart, where the old obelisk used to be. You have to be old enough to remember it, but up on the upper part of York Road before it was moved to the school. So there's lots here that we could talk about that was, and some of that came out of this wonderful event. It was a vendors event. The Pennypack, the old Pennypack School, which is now part of Hatboro's buildings, they held a vendor event there. We met a lot of people who also do what we do as historical associations. Our historical association was there, as was Old York Road Historical Society. Lots of talk back and forth about the kinds of things that we could do in this eastern corridor that would bring people in. History helps our economy. It's going to be my new historical commission motto. You know, people will come to see things, so we're looking forward to that as well. More talk, but then the other thing is just setting up these events for October, the end of October. We're looking for the same event we did last year, or same as in a family-friendly, fall-related, historically based event at the farmstead. We have to work with Parks and Rec on that calendar to make sure we're not stepping on other events that, you know, the kids and families would come to. But the people can count on that every year. And another event for our historical inventory members, including, outside of the event, including a letter to them informing them of where we stand, what are we doing, so that they feel connected and communicated with by the township, since we hold the inventory and we grant them these certain wonderful opportunities to do things with their property through code and other ordinances, or aspects of the ordinance, the things that you can do. And that's about what we discussed this past Tuesday. Any questions or comments? All good? Thank you very much.
Thank you both.
Group's been doing a great job. It's a really good group of folks.
We'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good, thank you.
I do want to, any comments? Start commission report. All right. I wanted to go over the upcoming zoning hearing for this Thursday. There are 3 posted hearings. 439 Mallard Road, Hatboro, that's Ward 2. Variance for a side yard setback. Petition of Darden Restaurants, the new Olive Garden at 2402 Easton Road, Willow Grove.
Okay, on that, we directed our solicitors to go to that, to oppose the sign on Sycamore, so it would only be facing Easton Road, no lighting going towards the residents. There was also
Placement.
another issue of the main sign out front having an arrow on it, which I think we're okay as long as they already got a variance in a prior one for the size of the sign. So as long as they stay to that size, the arrow, whatever they're putting on, is inside of there, not an additional sign. We were okay with that. And then also, it was only interpretation of the signs on the side of the building because they face parking lots. Technically, they're allowed. It was an interpretation though, but that's what the ordinance says, is if they're facing that. So really, after all this, Alex had talked to them. They have agreed to our all of our comments. So Alex will just be going to confirm that they do what we had said. Thank you for clearing it up even before you have to go. You still have to go to make sure.
Right, yeah, we make them put everything on the record.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and the final another hearing is for 101 Cruising Terrace. Applicants seek a variance for a front yard setback, 11 feet instead of the 20-foot requirement. Those hearings are this Thursday at 7:30 p.m. in this room. I don't believe there's any additional information for this committee.
The only thing I would just, as we're finding things out, just let the public know. Olive Garden is expecting to open in September. Across the street, the building they're putting in right on Park Avenue, they're saying September they will be finished. There was one other one. College Station is saying they will be done by September. So there's 3 big projects that should be finalizing up and opening September, October this year.
Okay. Is that your commissioner comments? Anything else? Good?
I'm good.